So welcome back. Today I'm going to be making my verdict predictions for the upcoming UFC 250 event, Nunes versus Spencer. Before we get into it, I'm just going to quickly recap kind of last week on verdict. I ended up in the top 25% with a 5,087 XP gain. It's pretty disappointing, though I only went 2-2. The big XP gain was largely due to cashing the Roberts via submission at 17.03 times. That fight kind of went exactly how I thought it would. The Dern fight wasn't exactly how I thought. Cypher's actually looked a little bigger. Looks like she's filling out at strawweight a little. But yeah, she shouldn't have engaged Dern on the grounds rather, and she subbed her very quickly. The Sakai Ivanov fight was close. I did score it for Sakai. I was a little upset with the fence grab. 2 minutes of ground control in that final round. I probably would have scored it for Blagoy. That's just unfortunate there. And then the Woodley performance was so disappointing. He really hasn't changed or evolved since that was my fight at all. He didn't look good. He looked exactly the same. Perhaps underrated Burns a little bit too much, but I feel like it was more so overrating Woodley and his comeback. But yeah, heaps of respect for Burns and interested to watch his next fights. Alright, so the bottom of the main card of UFC 250, we've got Sean O'Malley at 1.11 times versus Eddie Wineland at 9.96 times, so massive underdog here. O'Malley is 11-0, 3-0 in the UFC and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Eddie Wineland's 24, 13-1, 11-9 in the UFC and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. So yeah, O'Malley's super short. He's such a public tip, but I do really like him. He's so dynamic on the feet, throws all kinds of techniques, and he obviously hits hard, but I feel like it's more of his technique and timing more than power, because he can put guys out. He's shown that plenty of times in his career. He's a really troublesome frame and length for most guys in bantamweight. And in this one, he just has to keep on the outside, keep it in kicking range. It's going to be on Eddie to get inside. Wineland is more of a wild man. He does love to stand and trade. He blitzes in, and he's kind of made a career out of doing that. His stance is so wide. I feel like that's going to be a bit of his downfall in here. It's almost like a karate type stance. His knees are really bent, and that's just a massive target for Sean to go out with the leg kicks. And he has been susceptible to that throughout his career. We know Eddie can keep the pace up, but he's super inaccurate. He's got 29% striking accuracy, which is no good really. He makes up for it with good defense though. Head movement, always moves away from the power. He's got 70% striking defense, which is awesome. The problem that he might encounter with that here is Sean's just ability to switch it up on the feet. He switches stances constantly, throws spinning attacks very regularly. And with Eddie always moving away from the power side, when you're switching stances and spinning, you can walk him straight onto that power coming the other side. If, for example, Sean's in the orthodox stance, he could spin that right hook kick, and yeah, I can totally see Wineland getting put out with a shot like that. Wineland, he's fought the who's who of the division, but I don't like his mindset. He mentioned in a post-fight interview that if he lost to Popov, he was going to retire. On the contrary, Sean's mindset's perfect. He's so calm, so relaxed. He's confident in his skills and training, and he does just go out there and have fun. And he's the younger guy. He's the more motivated guy. So yeah, I'm picking Sean. Wineland is as tough as they come, and although he hasn't really fought too many times recently, about once a year, he hasn't been finished since 2014. So although I can see Sean walking him onto a big shot, it's no value in it at all. Verdict have it at 1.47 times for Sean to win by KO. So I'm going to take him via the decision at 6.02 times. I can see Wineland having a moment or two, getting on the inside and hitting Sean with some shots, but I think that Sean's going to be able to take whatever he can, whatever Wineland hits him with. Okay, and then we go to Neil Magny at 1.21 times versus Anthony Rocco Martin at 5.8 times. Magny's 22-8, 15-6 in the UFC and 3-2 in his last 5. Rocco Martin is 17-5, 9-5 in the UFC and 4-1 in his last 5. So pretty much here, they're both kind of veterans, but Magny, he's fought the higher ranked dudes and the better competition in his UFC career so far. He's got a really good fight IQ and he's well rounded. He's got abilities and all the skills of MMA. and he typically does dictate exactly where the fight takes place. For example, he grappled Jingliang in his last fight, which is just a super impressive way to go about tiring Jingliang out, who was obviously really dangerous at distance and in striking range. Magny's one of the longest and rangiest guys in the sport, let alone the welterweight division, which is going to be super tough for Rocco to face. He's never faced anybody like that before, and he is the perfect 3-round fighter. He's got the cardio to keep up a high pace. He always ramps it up as the fight goes on, keeps the distance with jabs and kicks, and then has a solid clinch and ground game. So yeah, with his ability to ramp up the output, he's always a problem in terms of finishing fatigued opponents late or just dominating a kind of scorecard. So going to Rocco, he's a pretty interesting fighter. I really like some of his wins, some high quality wins. That Jake Matthews one, for example, I feel like he's pretty underrated on the feet. He only has one win by TKO in his career, but that is slightly skewed. For example, in that Jake Matthews fight, he did knock him down with strikes, but then just ended up choosing to finish him with an anaconda choke and choked him out in that one, actually. He's super slick on the ground, 9 career victories by sub, and he's got heaps of different techniques that he's finished guys with. He's got the key lock, kimura, guillotine, rear naked, anaconda, triangles. He's literally finished guys with almost every submission there is. He used to get chewed up with leg kicks a lot, but since that Matthews fight, he has turned that around, and that could play a big factor here. Magny doesn't react well to leg kicks. He's been chewed up with leg kicks in the past, and he could really chop him down. So I expect Rocco to come out and use that. What I'm also expecting though is Magny to kind of evolved a little bit, look to check, look to counter, and that straight right counter off of the leg kick is going to be there for Magny. He's fighting at elevation. They're absolutely rolling at the moment. He must have all the confidence in the world, and I feel like he's making improvements on his game, trying to make a run back for the title here, or run back towards the top of the division. An issue that has been raised with Magny is his ability to take a shot. Is he getting a little chinny? So I feel like it's kind of a valid point, but he has only been TKO'd twice. The Ponzinibbio KO was brutal, but Santiago is one of the bigger welterweight frames, and he brings the power into the octagon that Rocco doesn't have. So I don't feel like that's as much of a problem for this fight. And yeah, just the winning culture in Magny's camp at the moment, I think it's going to go a long way. So I'm picking Magny. I think he's going to keep the distance with kicks and jabs, and he will counter Rocco's entries as he tries to close that big 7-inch reach gap. And then yeah, he's plenty capable to handle any of the grappling exchanges. Rocco will probably be at an advantage if it goes to the ground, but I feel like Magny will do enough to get out of any bad position and get this back to where he's comfortable. He's likely to win the fight via a decision, but opposite to the O'Malley fight, there's no value in it at all. I think verdicts have it at 1.61 times for Magny to win the decision. So I'm going to run my chances with a late knockout at 6.4 times, and I'm going to choose the third round. Like I was saying, he always increases his output as the fight goes on, and Rocco is a tough guy, has never been finished with strikes. Predicting that the damage might add up towards the late second and into the third round, and we might see a little finish here late. Yeah, and in terms of history, 3 of Magny's 7 TKO victories have come in the final round, so that's a little bit of history to support the pick. Okay, and then we go to probably the most exciting fight on the card. We've got Corey Sandhagen at 2.67 times versus Aljamain Sterling at 1.6 times. Sandhagen's 12-1, 5-0 in the UFC, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights, and Sterling is 18-3, 10-3 in the UFC, and 4-1 in his last 5. So going to Sandhagen first, he's super long, and although Sterling does have a 1-inch reach advantage, the height difference and difference in leg length will give Corey the kind of advantage at distance. He's so fluent and smooth on the feet. He switches stance similar to Sean O'Malley and throws all sorts of attacks, spins, flying knees, really crisp boxing. He does do it all. His ground game as well, although unpolished and a little erratic, I think it's very dangerous. He does only have 3 victories via submission, but I think it does kind of undersell his skill there. I don't mind him on the ground. Of course, Aljamain's probably going to have an advantage there. To Sterling, he's come along with his striking a long way. His last 2 fights, he didn't actually secure a takedown at all, and he showed that he can keep up striking output. He's probably less clean than Corey offensively, but he does throw bombs. Only 2 wins by TKO, but I think that also kind of undersells his ability on the feet. He does always look to shoot. He does enter nicely off his setups with his hands, and he loves to work to the dominant positions, and he's super dangerous. 7 wins via submission. And yeah, I'm just really excited for this fight. I feel like it will hit the ground at some point, but I think that Corey's advantage in the stand-up will be the biggest factor. Although the numbers say otherwise, I feel like Corey's defense is better. He's got the boxing pedigree, awesome footwork, good head movement, and I feel like his defense is better to the bigger shot. And Aljo, I feel like, needs to land a big shot on the feet to kind of match Corey there. Corey's going to be throwing them leg kicks. He enters with digging hooks to the body, knees while closing the distance or countering guys going for the takedown. His tie clinch game is very strong. He loves to work knees to the body. He doesn't discriminate. Legs, body, head, he goes everywhere. He's so versatile. And I can see him setting up a knee on one of Aljo's takedown attempts if it's not hitting pretty much how Mirage put him out. So yeah, with both guys having like really high output and skills to finish fights wherever it is, and the fact that both of these guys want to put a stamp on this fight to prove themselves as next for the throne, I think that this doesn't go the distance. So I'm going with Corey. Again, elevation team, they're riding the wave at the moment. I'm going with them again, and I think he finishes the fight. I'm not too certain in what fashion, but I'm going to go via the TKO at 11.84 times, just because I think Corey has a bigger advantage on the feet. I can see him hurting him on the feet with knees and elbows, maybe a clinch type scenario, and then finishing the fight with some big shots from the top position. I was tempted to play the submission at over 50 times at the moment on verdict, but Aljo will probably prove too good there defensively, even if he is rocked and disorientated. And in my head, although I see the finish coming late, I'm just going to back Corey's really fast finishes and the history that he has of first round finishes. 5 of his 7 victories by finish were in the first round, and then also Aljamain Sterling's only loss by finish was also in the first round to Moraes. Okay, so going to the co-main now, we've got Rafael Assunção at 2.75 times and Cody Garbrandt at 1.57 times. Assunção's 27-7, 14-6 in the UFC and 3-2 in his last 5. Garbrandt's 11-3, 6-3 in the UFC and 2-3 in his last 5. It's kind of a strange fight. It does make sense, but both of these guys are on losing streaks. To me, Garbrandt's losing streak feels way worse though. 3 consecutive knockout losses. So yeah, I'll start with Assunção. He's super experienced, taken on and beaten so many guys. He's only lost to Sandhagen, Moraes and Dillashaw in the last 9 years. And both Moraes and Dillashaw he'd already beaten in fights earlier in their UFC careers before they both came and won rematches. Other guys he's also beaten, worth noting, of Pedro Munoz and Aljamain Sterling. He's got great output, he's a gritty veteran, can take big shots. He's only been TKO'd once in his career out of all the killers that he's been in the octagon with, which is super impressive. And that comes down to his striking defense. It's 68%, second highest in the UFC bantamweight division's history, which goes a long way, and I think it puts him in good stead here to kind of defend Garbrandt's big power. He's super dangerous on the ground as well, and although most of his submission victories came earlier in his career, he does have 10 of his 27 wins in that manner. So yeah, super well-rounded fighter, and yeah, just a veteran. Going to Cody, his rise to the top was impeccable, but he is really hard to have after the last 3 fights. His willingness to engage a firefight's really exciting to watch, but it does show poor fight IQ. I guess the benefit of this fight for Cody is Assunção doesn't necessarily have the best power. He's not really known for hitting hard, so that could play into Cody's, advantage, being labelled as chinny. Cody's also never been taken down. His boxing's really good. He's got really nice footwork, and most people can't get part of the power to actually work for a takedown. He's still one of the hardest hitters in the division, but I feel like Assunção does have a clearer path to victory. His defense, lack of KO history, makes me feel like Garbrandt, I don't have confidence that Garbrandt can put him out. He's super tough. I feel like he'll make Cody miss, and I feel like he's going to outpoint him to a decision. He's proven his ability to win fights through striking alone, with his Aljamain and first fight against Marlon Moraes not hitting the deck at all. He's clocked over 100 strikes in fights previously. He can keep it up over 15 minutes. He's a tough fight for anybody. Also, adding to that, however unlikely it may be with Cody's footwork and takedown defense, if it does hit the ground, if Assunção doesn't find the submission finish, I feel like that will definitely score him the round, which works towards a decision victory. So yeah, I'm going with Assunção via decision. It's paying really good value at 8.29 times at the moment. Pretty much Cody's just so hard to have after this losing streak. I don't know where his head's at, but as soon as he's in the octagon, the IQ just goes out the window, and I'm going to back Assunção. He hasn't won by a submission since 2013, so even if he gets to the ground, I'm not too worried about that outcome. And then the verdict odds have him at 4.97 to win by KO, which is, I think it's just speaking into Cody's last 3 losses more than Assunção's history, because he's only won 4 of his 27 fights by KO, so I think that's way too short, and the decision is paying a good multiplier there. And so to the main event, Amanda Nunes at 1.15 times versus Felicia Spencer at 7.88 times. Nunes 19-4, 13-2 in the UFC and 5-0 in her last 5. Spencer's 8-1, 2-1 in the UFC and 4-1 in her last 5. You know, I don't think I need to hang too much on this. Nunes is one of the most dynamic fighters on the female roster. Well, she is the most dynamic fighter. And she's the better fighter in this one wherever the fight takes place. She packs dynamite in her hands, 13 of her 19 career wins by knockout. And as Spencer is somewhat of a BJJ fighter, I can see Nunes wanting to keep this a stand-up affair where she's going to have the speed advantage, the power advantage, and the advantage of having more versatile kind of arsenal with kicks and her ability to enter and find gaps in the opposition's defense. However, if it does go to the ground, I'm very confident that Nunes will be able to explode or work with technique, threaten subs, get out of any bad positions Felicia might have her in. So, you know, biggest reason why it's so easy to be confident with Nunes is she just doesn't have bad nights. She's super skilled, super motivated to defend both her belts, and you know, she's got that belief. She's on such a good streak. Whatever she does in camp, whatever she does in training, it translates to results in the cage. She also has a ton of respect for Felicia. She wouldn't take the fight on the short notice like Dana asked for the fight to be a month ago. She wanted to camp, she wanted to prepare, which speaks to Amanda's IQ, speaks to the fact that she's going to be prepared for Felicia in every way possible. And you know, it's hard to find a path for victory for Spencer. Spencer is a dangerous fighter for the division, and however unlikely her victory may be, she does pose a threat to Amanda. She could potentially win. I think the odds are well representative of her chances, but you know, her toughness is amazing. Displayed best in the Cyborg fight. She took a ton of shots, including massive hits in flurries in the first and second round. She took some bombs, and she gave it back. You know, she's got pretty high offensive striking numbers, and she obviously carries power as well. She split Cyborg in that first round, right on the forehead. So yeah, striking defense isn't great by the numbers, as you can see, but I feel like they are largely skewed due to that Cyborg fight. You know, it was a 15-minute fight and Cyborg landed over 100 strikes. So they're kind of put out of whack by that fight, so to speak. She's super dangerous and slick on the ground. That's where Felicia is going to be, you know, most in her realm and most likely of winning. But Amanda does have 80% takedown defense, so it's hard to imagine Felicia getting her down anyway. I have seen her pull guard before. She tried to pull guard with Cyborg, but I can't even imagine that being wise here. It's never wise to do anyway, but Amanda being so strong and so heavy, I feel like if she does pull guard, Amanda will just assume top position and rain down bombs. So to my decision, I can't look past Amanda. Felicia is tough though, and I'm going to take Nunes by the decision at 6.28 times. The knockout's just way too short again. I think it's like 1.4 times at the moment, which just doesn't excite me at all. Spencer was looking out of the fight towards the end of the third against Cyborg, so you know, she's tough enough and she has belief in her skill that she could potentially find a finish to stay in the fight even if she's losing on the scorecards. But I feel like Nunes could find a 4th or 5th round finish here. No value in it, so I'm back in the decision 6.28 times. That'll be a good multiplier. So yeah, wrapping up the video, I'll go to my multi per annum. Didn't hit last week, obviously hit 2 legs and lost 2 legs. So here we got another 4-legger. I'm rolling with Magny to win, Sandhagen to finish, even though I've picked a TKO victory on verdict. There's a sneaky chance that Aljamain does feel a little bit, or is a little bit rocked, and might get wrapped up in a submission. I've gone with Garbrandt versus Sunsao to go the distance, to go to the decision. It's about the same odds as what Sunsao is to win. I just felt there's a bit more security there in case, Cody is landing shots and it's a really close fight and Cody ends up taking a decision, which is, really valid outcome. That could definitely happen. I am riding with a Sunsao verdict though, due to all my reasoning plus the odds. The odds are much more favourable. And then the final leg, I'm going with Nunes via that round 4-5 finish or via a decision. Pretty much like I was saying, Felicia's tough. This could hit the scorecards, or Nunes could rally late for a late finish. Nunes could also finish her within the first round, second round, third round. She really is one of the most exciting fighters to watch in the UFC. She always brings it. And that multi per annum, the odds there are $54.45 to 1. So thanks for listening. And yeah, I'll chat to you guys in the next event.